Hello and welcome to the Will Leitch Show. I am the aforementioned Will Leitch, and I thank you for spending part of your day with me. Today's show is about Russia, specifically Sochi. This month marks 5 years since I and millions of other journalists, thousands of other journalists, spent a full month of my life in Sochi, Russia for the 2014 Winter Olympics. Now, I know no one remembers this now, but back in 2014, everyone was convinced that if you went to the 2014 Sochi Olympics, you were going to die. Remember, there were supposed Chechen Black Widow terrorist bombers and Putin's protective ring of steel and Congress people going on television and saying things like, there's a high degree of probability that something will detonate and I wouldn't feel comfortable sending my family there. And here I was, just wanting to write about some freaking ski jumpers. It turned out that no one blew up at the Sochi Olympics, so everyone forgot about them. But I will never forget my month in Russia because, as the rest of you has learned in the last 5 years, Russia is crazy. Everyone under the age of 30 I met, they were actually pretty cool, just like regular kids like everybody else. But everyone over 30, man, they had seen some shit and it showed. Here's my impersonation of someone in Russia smiling for a picture in front of the Olympic rings, the photo op of a lifetime. That's their joyous face. That's the happy face. That's the photo of the lifetime face. That's my face, sadly. Russia was just so strange. There was an amusement park that Putin spent $1 billion on that never actually opened. There was one restaurant there that catered toward specifically Americans that featured famous American delicacies like herring pizza, sushi brownies, and carrot bubblegum. The restaurant was also a hookah bar for some reason. I had 6 different people, when they learned I was American, offer me heroin. Heroin! Like at noon on a Wednesday. Did you know that Russian money in 2014 actually had pictures of Bullwinkle J. Moose on it? All right, that part's not true, but for a second you did actually believe me. When I was in Russia, Putin used the cover of the Olympics to invade Ukraine, though most of us journalists ignored that in favor of curling anyway. But what he was mostly doing, though, was laying down the groundwork for the sort of misinformation campaign that we're all now very used to, the kind that changed American history. He told reporters that Russians were the greatest natural athletes, even though half of them were banned for blood doping within months of the Olympics, not that anyone remembers now. He claimed to be pro-gay rights when faced with protesters, but the minute we all left, he went back to the oppressive regime that he still has today. And mostly, he just bullied everyone into doing whatever he wanted because we all assumed that Russia was just weird and who knows, who cares, they're harmless anyway. And now, well, you know what's going on now. My guest today, Jason Jones, was also in Russia for a month 5 years ago, and I'm looking forward to sharing stories with him about it. But mostly, I want to know if our world today is starting to remind him of Sochi in 2014. Because I look around, and this whole place is starting to smell of herring pizza. Here is my joyous face! I can't hold that forever. My guest today is the creator and star of the TBS show The Detour. He was also, of course, a longtime correspondent on The Daily Show. Can be seen in the new film, What Men Want. Please welcome Jason Jones. Sir, hey, wow. Welcome.
No, sit down.
I know, it's embarrassing.
Please.
It's embarrassing.
Please.
They never do this.
I know.
They never do this.
Good to see
It's
you.
really embarrassing.
Yeah, sit down, please.
Hold your most guests, there's heckling and tomatoes and booing and so on. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for
cheers.
inviting me.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
They washed the mug for you.
I love your mug. I wish I got that one.
Yeah, it gives me the impromptu of quirk, where otherwise there is no quirk. Okay, so I want to talk.
How do we humanize a guy in a suit? Let's
Yeah, exactly.
Give him a pink unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. And let's fill it with asbestos. This
Yes.
thing hasn't been washed in months.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, anyway, go ahead. How's it going? No, sorry. We're talking about Sochi.
Yes.
There's a sports show, so we got to talk about sports stuff.
Yeah.
You did some reports. I remember I was in Sochi for a month, and
How was that?
It was terrifying.
Really?
And I
Was
feel like it augured this kind of current moment. This is my overarching theory on this.
Okay.
Is the idea that like when you went out to Sochi, I noticed that everybody under 35 was cool. They were fine.
Right,
They
right.
were all like generally westernized, and everyone over 35 had seen some shit.
Right.
So they were all like dark and very upset and angry, and it felt. But everywhere you went, there all seemed to be both this fun. Every time I went there, everyone I saw in Russia was weird and strange,
Yep.
and awkward, and now they run everything. And now I feel like they've taken that stuff. Like when you did I remember you did some reporting about, because that was a big thing at the time about about like their policy about gays. And like I'm curious.
Well, they don't have any gays.
Yeah, well,
that's their policy.
Right, that
Gays don't exist in Russia.
Exactly, and you'd be a fool to think otherwise.
Yes.
So it's always curious for me. I remember that moment going out there. Everyone was convinced we were all going to die. That was another thing too.
Really?
Yeah, okay, remember there was the Ring of Death and the Black Widows.
Yeah, I guess so. It wasn't that scary for me. I was in Moscow, which was a much scarier place than beautiful.
So you found Moscow than scary.
Beautiful Sochi.
Of course.
I mean, I was trailed, and I found,
Did you get trailed?
Yeah.
I wasn't high profile enough to get trailed.
They always kind of keep tabs on what you're doing. A friend of mine went to interview someone much more important than I interviewed, and he found someone was in his room. When he came in his hotel room.
Like actually in the room?
Correct, yes.
What part of the room were they in?
In his hotel room.
I mean, like, were they like in the closet? Were they in the
No. No, he was at the computer and he stood up.
And there was just somebody there?
Yes, there was a guy there on his computer.
That is very, very disturbing.
I know.
So that didn't happen to you?
That did not happen to me, no.
But you still did a bunch of stories. Like, did you feel that sense of being monitored while you were there?
Yeah, there's always a bit. Anytime you travel and you go there on a journalist visa, which
of course,
I had,
yes.
I don't know why they gave it to me, but you try. You have suspicions that you're being watched. I went to Iran; it was the same thing.
Yeah.
There was, you were like, that guy's probably watching us, but I'm not doing anything that bad, so don't worry about it.
When I was in Russia, what struck me, because I feel terrible about it, and I feel kind of dumb about it now, because I found myself almost dismissive of it. Like, look how silly that. Like, there was this restaurant they had there. They had this restaurant that was supposed to be like for Americans,
right?
And they had like herring pizza.
Delicious.
And herring pizza, and like every table had a hookah. And there was like a picture of John Wayne on the wall.
Yeah.
Like it was just like a weird.
That's America, right? You read that Playboy
and so that's
interview,
the thing.
right?
And of course. And that's the thing. And now, at the time, I was like, wow, Russians are so behind the times. They don't know anything. And now I feel like everything I write on Twitter is responded to in that exact tone of herring pizza, John Wayne, and a hookah.
I don't think you can ever be that dismissive of any other culture.
Yeah, I won't now.
I know.
I certainly won't now.
We're so much farther ahead than them.
2004 was light years ago.
Because everybody, you've heard the hare and the tortoise storyline.
Yes.
Everyone catches up.
Yeah,
when you rest on your laurels.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me. It was always perspective. when they talked about who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. I was like, we're the good guys.
Yeah.
We ended the Cold War. I was like, no. They're like, no, you didn't. We did. We took a knee for the safety of the world. That's from their perspective. Ivan Drago was the good guy.
Yeah, and World War II, like from our perspective, World War II is they had like a couple troops that helped, maybe like a couple guys, like maybe a little, and that's not actually the way that they.
Every historian will tell you otherwise.
I'm curious. I don't want to get too political on this show.
Sure.
Because this is a fun sports show with wacky mugs.
I can sense the sports around. I saw a helmet when I walked in.
That's the only way. So just like put a helmet on the show. We'll call it a sports show.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. Like, how do you feel in this particular moment? You feel bad not doing like that kind of reporting daily show? Like, do you feel like you missed this moment? Or are you glad that you're missing it?
I'm so happy to be done with that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I wouldn't mind coming back to it, but once this current period of unrest and whatever it is you want to call it, once that dies down, or just plain dies, I think would. But
you don't see this and think, oh, I would love to dig my teeth into this.
No, because it's just everywhere. Everyone's a critic now. There was a period where we were the only ones on TV doing that. Now there's so many shows doing the exact same thing. Everyone on Twitter is doing the exact same thing. Yeah. So even if you have a nightly show, every joke has been made about it by the time you actually get to air. So,
I think John Oliver's like the only guy that can really do it now, because it's like I have a week. I'm not doing the news. I'm just doing a full long segment that has nothing. It's like a long form magazine piece rather than like doing.
He's not really in the hard news.
Right.
Yeah. So, but he does still a great job.
So, but that said, like if you were like when you were on the show, it's not like things were great. It's not like there was.
I heard someone the other day go, "Oh, wouldn't you like to have Bush back?" I'm like, "No, he started 2 wars.
That was the whole deal.
That we're still in. No, I don't want him back."
There was a story. I feel terrible laughing at this. There was a story the other day where there was a soldier in Afghanistan who had to have 9/11 explained to him by the sergeant in his what it was like to actually. We've been in Afghanistan
because he was so young.
Yeah, we've been in Afghanistan. So it's like 19 years old,
Right.
and
Oh,
he's been there
God.
so long. So
here's the reason why we were here
yeah,
in the first place.
right. When
Oh,
you
God,
were
that's sad.
when you were born.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that's
great.
sad. That's
So
sad.
I think the Onion actually did an article about that when it like 5 years after Afghanistan. Like, hey,
right.
that'll be funny in like 13 years. And here
Anyway.
we
hoops, right? That's what we're here to talk about.
There's helmets
Sports.
here all around. There's helmets here.
Go
all around.
sports.
Okay, I do have some sports questions.
Okay.
Actually. I do have some sports questions.
Sure.
But we'll transfer into the frivolous questions of dubious impact.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
These
heard
are
about
specific
those.
questions written just for you.
Just for me.
Because if I
frivolous.
get them backwards, I'm asking very confusing questions.
Okay, all
for
right.
like Andre Holland.
Shoot.
Okay. First, legitimate question. Do you think sports are actually funny? I had read a thing about you did something on the NFL network with like Rich Eisen, and,
Yes.
and they didn't like it. Is that an accurate statement?
I wouldn't say that they didn't like it. They didn't.
What was the segment?
It was me interview. I was pretending to be a basement blogger.
Okay.
Or vlogger, actually.
Right, a vlogger.
And I would sit in my basement and interview stars, and I was just this prognosticator and was terrible at his job. Like, you remember Jiminy Glick?
Yeah, of course.
I was
of
the sports version
Got it,
of Jiminy Glick.
Got it.
And I did one interview with Stevie Johnson. He was great. He was a great sport. He played along.
Bills
with
wide receiver,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, correct. And he played along with it. It was really funny, and I think it was 3 minutes long, maybe. And they aired it, and I could see none of the guys at the table laugh. It was on the NFL Network. No one was laughing at it. I thought it was pretty funny, but no one laughed at it. And then
That's weird too because
Rich Eisen comes over to the producer. He's like, producer comes over to me. He's like, hey, if we're gonna do any more, we really gotta like shorten them. Like I'm like, it was 3 minutes. Warren Sapp just danced for fucking 7 minutes. Okay? What the hell?
Oh, it's weird. Like it's weird because I feel like all those shows are just a table of people of former athletes laughing at something that was not funny. The athlete
the
just
only
thought was
ones that are actually funny are Barkley and Shaq.
Yeah, right.
Everyone else is not funny. There are no funny
and the
people in
NFL show
sports.
ones in particular. The NFL in particular, it's
they're
always
the
just like
worst.
it's all like the equivalent of like towel snapping.
And I used to watch them all.
Yeah.
That's how sad my life was. I was like, when's pregame start?
But now, are you still into football? Are you still into it as much? Or have you I know a lot of people have had it fade a little bit less.
It's faded for me.
Yeah.
It's faded for me. And it's not for the kneeling.
You're mad about the kneeling. You're mad about the
just
kneeling.
Furious
I thought you
about
would
the
be.
kneeling.
I thought you would be. I prefer people standing at all times. I would rather people not. I wish people weren't even sitting right now.
Should I tell this story? It's funny. But
I think that you should.
I don't know if I should.
I feel like you should.
So I just worked with a former professional athlete
Okay.
about in the football.
Okay. Got it.
And he was just going off about the kneeling and
Against it.
against it. He was just like rah, rah, for support the flag, rah, 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 rah. And I started to wind him up, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely right. And he got so mad. But then it was the next day. And he's like, I don't watch football anymore. Now I'll just watch college. Like he'd given up on football, and he used to play in the NFL. And
He'd given up on professional football because of the kneeling.
Because of the kneeling. That's how much he hated the kneeling.
That's a lot of kneeling.
Former NFL player.
was like,
He's like, I won't watch it anymore. No kneeling.
Wow.
But then they made the ruling about no one can kneel, or they can protest in the locker room or whatever it was. And then I came in and I was like, hey brother, we won. We won today. He's like, we can watch football again. Anyway. Still not going to watch it.
He's still mad. He's still mad. They once kneeled before the time that's now.
They can't kneel anymore.
Yeah, that's.
But I'm still not going to watch it.
I feel like football is starting to reflect the level of discourse in general. That's all kind of
a little bit.
So if you don't watch football, do you watch?
No, I still watch it. I still watch it.
Do you have,
just not as voracious.
So what's your sport?
as
What is your? Is it basketball? Is it?
It's you know what's funny is my and again I'm not watching it. My son is really into ultimate. His school has got an ultimate team, and he's on the ultimate team, and he can throw a frisbee way better than I can. And he's tried to get me to watch that, and I just can't.
Is it the kneeling?
It's the kneeling.
It's the kneeling.
Don't kneel on the frisbee.
I don't even know why.
Respect the frisbee.
I don't even know why they
Sorry,
do the
the
national. Yeah, the disc. Sorry, you dare call it a frisbee?
How dare me?
It's calling table tennis ping pong.
Insult the great game of ultimate.
I really don't even know why they do national anthem before ultimate events anyway. All told.
You know, hey, this is the country we live in, man.
That's true. That's true.
Love it or leave it, brother.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Love it or leave
we
it.
We should always play the anthem before every.
Don't get my guy.
disc event.
Don't get my guy riled up again. He might stop watching ultimate.
Okay. It's true.
I'll tell you who it is off camera.
I like the idea in 30 years your son too is going to be like, I used to love it. I used to love it. Okay, so one of the fun things about the detour for me
Yes.
is that like it's made it impossible for me to watch a typical situation family comedy.
Oh, thank you.
Like I feel like, yeah, I mean, like some and whatever.
That's my
like
goal.
I felt like I always watched them kind of casually without being all that invested. Anyway,
Yeah.
which I think is part of the job description for those, right? Like they're meant to be kind of watched in the background.
No, they're not. They never used to be. They
Okay.
became that way.
Okay,
I
so-
think somewhere in the 90s, they just stopped being about anything.
Right.
And they just became this, like your questions, frivolous and garbage. It was your title.
I didn't say garbage. Sorry, go ahead.
Somewhere,
Fine, no, go
but
ahead.
I think in the 70s and early 80s, they were about something, and they just stopped becoming about something, and they sort of just died off, and they were in that state of background noise, like just laugh track. It's just a constant laugh track. No one. The funniest thing to me to watch is one of those shows without the laugh track. Have you seen those on YouTube?
Yeah. It's just
And it's like a weird, like Samuel Beckett play.
Right. Yeah, it's like a Tim and Eric sort of deal where it's just like, it's just hard.
It's like, hey, Johnny.
Yeah.
Nice shirt.
Wow.
It's this weird, unnerving drama.
That was unnerving anyway. And that's the thing though. It's like for me now. So because honestly, I don't want to name any names of shows because I don't want to. But certainly, I think people know what shows we're talking about. And one of the things I do like about the show is it feels like they just make shows like that seem not just bad, but like really, really lazy.
Well, thank you. I work really hard to write. You know, I don't stop at the end of the day, and I don't break for lunch. I break my writers, and I break myself, and I just challenge everybody to come up with something original that we haven't necessarily seen before. If we have seen it, what's a way to spin that so it doesn't feel derivative? You know.
Do you think? I mean, honestly, are they bad? What is it? The culture that started making them bad, or was it?
I think it's a combination of a few. I think safety in numbers, not trying to offend.
Right.
The level of network executives involved always
advertisers
never makes advertisers who peel off if it's too controversial. Not that we do anything all that controversial.
Well, I know, but it's,
you know,
it gets a little dark.
We push. Sure.
Have you ever had any issues with that? I mean, TBS is not, it's not. It's a big station, It's,
we've had. I argue with S&P. I push back, and we find some place in the middle. They wouldn't let me do in season 2. They didn't let me do a crowning shot. When this baby's being born, I wanted the kids to come in and see that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I can.
So I did a reverse crowning shot, like from the POV of the baby.
Oh, okay.
Coming down the birth canal.
Right. Okay, then they were okay with that.
They were fine with that.
Okay,
which is so much grosser.
I was gonna say that's like a Gaspar Noé movie.
It was like boop, boop, boop. You could hear the heartbeat, and then the lips opened, and it was pushed through. And
I'm glad they were okay with that.
Two kids. There was mucus there. It was kids screaming.
I feel like it says something about the standard practices that would be that. Like, what do you think it says about them psychologically?
I think all they just saw was vagina.
Right, they just saw the word.
Like, no, absolutely. But then I go, well, okay, how about birth canal? I don't know what that is, so sure. See, we compromise.
That's good. That's smart. That's smart. That's a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you play golf? I heard you played golf.
Yeah.
Because I know the show used to. Because I read something where I live in Athens, Georgia. That's where I live. So you take the show in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I thought you've been to Top Golf. I've never.
Oh yeah.
That's like a whole thing there. Like it's basically a bar where you can just go and then drink a lot and hit golf balls off like from your table.
Yeah.
Do you play golf now? Like, or do you just is that?
I get out a couple times this summer. I wouldn't call it playing golf. I played a lot more when I was unemployed.
Well, I don't. That's usually the opposite. Usually people work enough to where they just. I'm not a golf guy really, but like I know that.
Have you been to Topgolf?
I have been to Topgolf.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I always said driving ranges should cease to exist, and everything should be Topgolf.
Just be a bar.
Just be a bar.
Just be a bar. Yeah, like no golf.
Shouldn't that be everything? Can we just get rid of schools and firehouses and police stations and just make them bars?
Just make it a bar. I mean, we're really kind of close.
We're getting there.
We're kind of close.
We're getting there.
Okay, so I want to ask something. You have a kind of a cultural rarity. I hope this is okay thing to ask.
Whoa.
But you are the subject of a Snopes.com myth busting. And in this world, I find because I've been reading Snopes for 20 years.
Okay.
Like it's been Snopes around for a really long time.
Yeah.
And it's always been like this valuable resource for all the internet bullshit that's out there.
Sure.
You can go to Snopes and find out whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
And for like 15 years, I found it really charming. I was like, oh, good. There's so much dumb stuff that my parents send around on Facebook. Right. It's harmless, but I'm glad I can send them to this site.
Right.
Now it feels like that site is the most important site that's ever existed on the internet.
Yeah. Yes.
Because your thing was involving the school. Like they made up some thing about your school. The school.
Okay, so do we want to go down the road?
It's up to you.
It's a long. I will talk about it, but it's a long story.
I know the background of the story, but I don't want to. I don't want to have to. You don't have to get in the weeds on it, but just for context.
So I'm a staunch believer in public school.
Yes.
I think the reason we have a broken school system is that we don't all participate, and the privates and charters. And I think it's your right to go to them, but you are hurting the public by
you are talking to my kids are public school kids.
Diverting funds. So I can afford private, but I believe in the public school. I was a kid of the public school system. I believe in the public school system. I go to meetings. I host auctions. I donate a lot of money.
Right.
To the public schools. If anyone asks me, like, what's your charity? I say New York City Public Schools. So that said, I decided our school was reciting. We weren't even rezoning. We were reciting. That means just moving a school. And all the parents were up in arms. And some were saying yes, some were saying no. And then New York Times wrote an article about that the Upper West Side parents are up in arms, or all divided. And I got up and I said, we're not divided. We all want what's best for our kids. And there's two sides of the story, and I'm going to tell both sides, shut up.
Right.
These guys that are saying, oh, we're moving because you don't want to move, therefore you are a racist, and you're saying you don't want to move, or you want to move, or if we move, our school will blow up.
Right.
So I was trying to broker the peace, or as the internet calls it, two-sidesing an argument.
Yes.
And getting everyone to calm down.
That always works, by the way.
Yeah. So I said, don't call these people who don't want to move racist, and you guys, if we do move, don't think the school's going to blow up because you're doing a disservice to the teachers and this principal who built a great school. So I thought it was a very decent argument to summate. I was the last person to speak. Of course, they ran with it and only picked up. They say, "Don't call people racist," and they were like, "Hey, he's deciding that he doesn't want black people in his school." I was like, that's
literally the opposite.
That's not at all what I said, and nor was
Which Snopes confirms, by the way.
Nor was okay. So I'll get to that, but so ironically, it was picked up by liberals. Liberals and progressives were the ones who came after me first. They came after me huge, and then it kind of died down, and then out of nowhere, the right came up, and it was like the spectrum had just bent so far that those two idiotic sides met up.
This is what you get for trying the two sides thing.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody out of here.
You can't two sides an argument.
You can't.
Okay.
Every side is one side.
Now there's
and
two
the wrong
sides to an argument.
Look what's happening.
What is the world
America.
coming to? Yes. So Snopes did put out something, but there are so many.
How does it feel like to be in the middle of when?
Just so stupid.
Because that's the thing.
Like, what is happening?
Like I've said dumb stuff before and got yelled at for it, and I'm like, yep, I got it. But to have be like, no, you were literally doing the opposite of what I was trying to do.
Right.
Has to be incredibly infuriating.
Well, the crazy part was the progressives thought, oh, it was all about keeping. I was trying to keep people of color or socioeconomic lower on the scale out of our school. And the irony of it all is there was no talk of any rezone. We were just moving
the building from one there.
From one to another. And most of the parents were like, 17 blocks.
Yeah. They handle change very well.
I know. They were like, I can't walk 17. That's almost a mile.
My God.
Yeah. So that was the irony.
They
kept, the progressives were saying that, and
I'm glad it's been clarified. I'm glad
it hasn't. There's people out there that will just choose to believe what they want to believe.
But at least there's a Snopes link.
There is, but that's the other thing. Now people are just so believe what they want to believe that they go, like I'm going to listen to Snopes.
God. We're doomed.
So
we
you
are
only
so
believe
doomed.
what you want to believe.
We're so doomed.
I know.
Okay, let's talk about happy things.
Yeah.
Then.
Anyway. So just if you're a progressive watching this sports show, I know you're not. You're on Twitter railing about something.
They're mad about the mug.
Just know that I'm actually trying to make our schools better, not trying to.
Well, that'll learn you.
Fuck over people of color.
That'll learn you.
So that will learn me to say anything.
Okay, a few more.
Story, don't say nothing.
There's another Will Leitch, who is a BBC reporter in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
And occasionally I'll get yelled at. People will yell at me about Brexit on Twitter because of it.
Right.
There are many Jason Jones in the world.
I'm almost Google proof.
Which one are you the most often confused with?
I don't think so. I think.
Or they're more confused with
They're
you.
more confused than me.
Yeah.
I'm more famous than them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're not here on the Will Leitch
Exactly,
Show.
exactly.
Where's that Jason Jones?
You're not trapped in there with them. They're trapped in here with you.
I think there's I think there's like a basketball reporter.
There's a basketball reporter.
Yeah.
There was an old football player.
Yeah, I knew there was a football player. Yeah. He
But I think the lead singer of the band Drowning Pool is named Jason Jones.
I think it was the bassist.
Oh, sorry. Don't listen.
It wasn't
listen,
even the lead
Jason
singer.
Jones. I know this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know what's funny is they accused that often on Twitter, because my Twitter handle is like a weird thing. I'm not even on Twitter anymore. But he would get accused of being a school segregationist. He's like, what? I'm black. What are you talking about?
Oh, I love this day and age that we currently live in.
Oh, it's good and it sucks at the
I want to
same
ask
time.
you about two more questions. I want to ask you
Sure.
about an old Daily Show segment that you did. Because
Okay.
I'm curious how much you remember them.
I remember them all.
Is that a quiz?
I did 118 of them, and I think I remember all of them.
So I used to write for a site called Deadspin, and I did the Carl Monday story.
Of course,
Good old Carl
you
Monday.
guys loved the Carl Monday
Carl Monday
story.
story was our favorite story, and I always felt that we were very vindicated when you did the Carl
We
Monday.
might have actually got the Carl Monday story from you guys.
Probably.
Because you guys reported on him a lot.
He was very exciting. For those that don't know, Carl Monday was a reporter, a
Yes.
television reporter in Cleveland, in suburban Cleveland.
Yep.
And he had basically there was this guy. It was only a sports story because the guy was wearing a hoodie that said Ohio State
That's right.
on it. That was the only reason it was a sports story. But he was sitting at a computer in public library,
Yep.
and he was touching himself in a way that is untoward.
He jerked off in a public library.
That would be another way to put it.
Yep.
And the Carl Monday.
Which, by the way, you shouldn't do.
Don't do.
Yeah.
Don't do.
Yeah.
Don't do. But Carl Monday went after him with a ferocity that I think would be so it's an intense ferocity. And then his dad got into it. And it was a whole 3-act drama. And so you
3-act. He did like 5 pieces.
Oh yeah, it was a whole deal.
It was
It
maybe
was a whole
even
deal.
7 pieces. It was a lot.
And so because you ended up eventually confronting Carl Monday.
I did, yes.
So I'm curious because I've never met him because I wrote so much about him at Deadspin.
Yep.
That I never actually met him. Is he okay? Was he not play? I hope he was angry with you and did not want to play at all.
Okay, so we caught him. We did the exact same thing to him that he was doing.
Right.
We staked out his house. Like first thing, it was so early. I didn't want to be up, and then we had the crew that was just shuffling. We used local crews, and they were not ready. They're like, "What's going on? What is this show?" And we saw his place, and we're like, "Shit, there he is!" And so we just go. Me and my producer go running after him.
That's the best.
The crew comes following, and I only really had one good joke off him, and it was we were talking about this. He was trying to insult the cameraman, and ironically, the cameraman actually worked for the Cleveland station that he worked for. I'm like, "You're insulting your crappy crew, not mine." And then I think I said, "What's the best way to insult someone like this?" And it was just his face. I'm like,
No, he retired recently. He retired in the last year. So I'm a little worried. I feel like
Probably should have retired a little sooner, but that's local news.
I've not been in a library since he retired. So
He's forced you out of libraries.
I know it's terrible. Okay, what else? Forgive me. This is a personal thing I'm doing. I'm going to ask you to do.
Okay.
So I have 2 sons. 7-year-old William, 4-year-old Wynn. 4 is obsessed with Creative Galaxy. Which is a show that you and your wife do. Are the voices of the parents on.
Yes.
So I don't know. How recently? When was the last time you did the voice? In a while.
2 years ago, maybe.
2 years ago?
Yeah, it was
so
a while back.
Can you still do it? Because I'm hoping.
Maybe.
It's the only thing he'll ever care about I've ever done in my entire
But
life.
will he care that the dad says something?
I don't know if you do it in the
Like,
voice.
maybe the son or Artie, maybe.
I know.
But not the dad.
Well, I don't have Artie here. I have Artie's dad here.
You couldn't book Artie. No one can book Artie.
Artie big times. Freaking Artie.
What's his name? William?
Well,
Does he
Wynn,
watch this
Wynn.
show?
He watches the show obsessively.
No, he watches this show?
As long as he wants to eat, he does.
So-
if he wants to be let out of the closet, he does.
That takes on too many meetings.
Sorry. He's 4. He's 4.
Okay. But what do you want me to do? Just say hello?
Just say hello to Wynn in the Artie's dad voice.
I don't even remember. It's been 2. Hey, Wynn, how are you?
No, that's
Something
not
like
bad.
that?
No, it's fine.
Hey, how's
I'm
it
not gonna
going,
afford
Wynn? Are we gonna be constructive today, Wynn? It's creepy coming out of a
That's
guy
good.
with
Yeah.
a beard.
Yeah. We'll
He thinks-
superimpose the guy on you. Okay. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that.
I don't even know if that's the voice anymore.
My son is going to
It's
be
been so long.
I've officially.
You just got me fired from Creative Galaxy.
My children are going to be now scared by both of us.
I think I was already fired.
Okay. Last question. I ask this of every guest on every show.
Okay.
I look around the world and it seems very scary to me. I'm going to ask you, do you think we're going to be okay? When I look around the world now, do you think we're going
What
to
scares you about the world?
Well, everything. What isn't scary?
What?
I mean, okay, the studio's okay. Nothing's going to fall on
You got
us.
all these amazing people out here, and they all came
That's
to
true. They've all
see
been
you,
cheering.
you
They've been
know?
doing the wave the entire
Yeah,
time. We've
they're
been
amazing
discussing.
people. Thanks,
I know.
everyone.
Yeah, I know. It's
No,
embarrassing.
that's the thing. That's the question I always ask people back. What are you really afraid of? Because if you get off your phone, yeah, I mean, climate change is a big issue, and we have to actually enact quickly and get off. Stop eating so much red meat. Really is the key. Yeah. But there's nothing really that scary out there. Don't be afraid of the world. Go out and talk to people you disagree with, as opposed to yelling at them on your phone. I mean, we're all better for it when we speak to one another.
Okay, that's very helpful and very profound. I need you to say an Artie's dad voice. That would be really, really helpful if you could do that. Well, I don't have a son named Win. It's me that watches the show, and I just really needed that warmth and reassurance.
I know.
Jason Jones, thank you very much for
thanks
your
for
time.
having
The
me.
show
Thank
is
you.
The Detour. By all means, keep up all the great work, and thanks for chatting with me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, a pleasure.
Thank
Jason
you,
Jones?
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You in the back. You in the back.
Thank you.
This has been
Good to see
the
you.
Will Leitch Show. Come back to SI.com and Amazon channels and wherever all of your Will Leitches are sold.